And here we are again for another half hour of the Beatles.
Live from Shabby Road, you're listening to the Beatles Songwriting Academy podcast.
Hi there, this is Matt Blick from Beatles Songwriting Academy with an outtake, if you will, a bonus track from the most recent podcast looking at the difference between Lennon and McCartney's songwriting style. And we touched on the issue of whether John was more avant garde than Paul in the Beatles. And there was some evidence for that. Obviously, Revolution number 9 is the biggie. But on the other hand, Paul quoted Stockhausen as an influence in the orchestral section of A Day in the Life. And the tape loops in Tomorrow Never Knows were Paul's idea. And we just touched on the whole thing that chance and randomness was something that all the Beatles were into quite a lot. But let's just add in a few other things. One of the interesting things to look at is the side projects that Lennon and McCartney were involved in during the Beatles' time. So John's projects tended to be with Yoko, obviously. And we have albums like Two Virgins and Unfinished Music, and also the Give Peace a Chance single. Paul's outside projects tended to be things like theme tunes. He wrote the TV theme tune for Cilla Black's show.
Coming out of the cold, rest your head on my shoulder and love me tonight. I'll always be here if you should need me.
He wrote a piece of music called Thingamabob for a Stanley Holloway program that was recorded by the Black Dyke Mills Band. He also produced I'm the Urban Spaceman for the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band.
I'm the urban spaceman, baby, I've got speed.
And Those Were the Days, My Friend for Mary Hopkins. So if you just compare those two things, Lennon's stuff is all sort of music concrete. It's all crazy stuff. Even Give Peace a Chance is very kind of ramshackle, almost poetry slam kind of thing. Paul's stuff is all very melodic, kind of appealing to the older demographic perhaps. John's stuff is all very intensely personal. Paul's stuff is really putting other people front and centre. Even producing Bonzo Dog under a doodah. Even producing Bonzo Dog under a pseudonym, under a doodah. So, yeah, there's the avant-garde influence, but it's just interesting to see the different approaches when they kind of have free reign. What they naturally gravitate to. John does gravitate to self-expression.
This is the Beatles Songwriting Academy podcast, sitting reverently at the feet of Lennon and McCartney and then stealing their shoes.
I think it's probably more true to say that avant-garde was a strong influence on Yoko and that Yoko was a strong influence on John. John always had a kind of a little bit of a reservation, I think, that came through. When he wrote I Am the Walrus, he said, Dylan got away with murder. I thought, well, I can write this crap too.
When I heard something jerking, there stood Rita looking just like Tony Perkins.
So on the one hand, he was exploring things, he was trying to genuinely make a statement, but on the other hand, he was aware that I'm making something that I think is crap deliberately as a statement. So he had a foot in both camps. One other thought I had is that I don't really think they were that much different in what they were influenced by. I think Avant Garde had a big influence on both of them. I don't think they were that different in what they were prepared to bring into their work, but they were very different, especially as we get towards the 1968-69. They were very different in what they were prepared to release. So McCartney would have just as much fun as John going crazy and using all these weird sounds, but then he was the one that was not keen on releasing Revolution number 9 on the album. So it's less about what they liked or what they did and more about what they were willing to share with the public. If you think about the instance of Instant Karma, the song that John wrote and was produced by Phil Spector. He took the rough mix that Spector had done and had it pressed and released before it could be mixed properly or even mastered, because he wanted to share it with the public straight away. He didn't want it to be polished, he didn't want to have that considered approach, and that was the kind of thing that Paul wasn't prepared to do at all. And so I guess there are more filters as far as Paul's concerned in what actually reaches the public, whereas John was definitely more prepared to let it all hang out.
Beatles Songwriting Academy is getting better all the time. It can't get no worse.
So, in conclusion, I think Paul, unchecked by other influences, would just lean towards tweeness and schmaltzy kind of musical styles, whereas John, in the late Beatles era, when he was unchecked, leaned towards avant-garde heavily, but only till he got bored with it and moved on to something else. For Paul, the avant-garde was an influence to be absorbed and incorporated. For John, it was something new to be kind of binged on and then ultimately abandoned. And really, I guess, not really having much of a lasting influence on his music, if you look at the later recordings. Okay, that's it. Beatles Songwriting Academy podcast is a free podcast, but it's subscription only, and you can get it by going to beatlesongwriting.com and signing up to our mailing list, and then you'll get links to each episode as they come out. And here's a few clips from previous episodes for you to check out, and I hope to see you at beatlesongwriting.com.
My dear girl, there are some things that just aren't done, such as drinking Dom Perignon 53 above a temperature of 38 degrees Fahrenheit. That's as bad as listening to the Beatles without earmuffs.
Next one, also from the White Album, is I'm So Tired. We start off in the key of A, but immediately we get what I call the 7 drop. You go straight to a G sharp 7 chord from A, which is out of key. It's got C natural in, which doesn't belong, and E flat or D sharp. Then we've got an E augmented chord, which again has got a C natural in, and then a D minor chord, which has got an F natural in, and we also get the C and F in the melody.
I'm back in Britain, yes, I'm back in Britain, we're all back in Britain today.
The verse has D, C, G over B, and B flat, again with that little passing chord back up, just the same as John did in I Am the Walrus. Talk about from the sublime to the ridiculous, or vice versa, all using the same chords, all in the same key.
You're playing that bass again.
Beatles Songwriting Academy,
You got me trombone now.
sitting reverently at the feet of Lennon and McCartney, and then stealing their shoes.
John Lennon pretty much does the same trick in I Am the Walrus in the second half of the verse, or the second variation on the verse, but in the major this time. Same key, so it's A, then it's A over G, then D over F sharp, and then F natural.
Whenever you get on an Indian channel, you know, and you're fiddling through the radio, I always used to just turn it off. And George got this big sort of Indian kick. And he's dead keen on it, you know. And we've been around to his house a couple of times, and he plays it. And so boring.
No. He plays the fifth of the root chord, so he starts on an A. Now he embellishes that quite a bit by playing D's below and above as fills. But you can hear the line starting on the A. This is the kind of shift that George Martin puts in on a song that he doesn't really totally believe in, and it's absolutely outstanding. D over B flat. Now that last chord is horrible, and it's the same approach in Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and both songs get over this kind of clash by arpeggiating the chords.
Never trust anybody that doesn't like the Beatles.
Let's just take a quick look at the three main line cliches that the Beatles use. The first one is the descending root. That's on a minor chord, but you can do it on a major chord as well. Pitch shift it down to the same key. And one more time. Where does it go? Oh no, it doesn't go there. Let's try that again, shall we? This is the chord sequence that Kashmir uses. The best example of that in the Beatles is Hey Bulldog, which not only does it, but does it in two keys.
You can talk to me. You can talk to me. You can talk to me. If you're lonely, you can talk.
It's getting better all the time. It can't get no worse.
But instead of it being on the bottom of the chord like it is in Michelle, it's on the top. So you've got... and then in the middle, it's Strawberry Fields Forever. So that's a chromatic line going from the root note downwards.
Plastic soul, man. Plastic soul.
Absolutely fab.
We raise the fifth, the B, to a C. We raise the fifth again to a C sharp, which gives us E minor 6, and then back down again to the C natural. Now, this was in the Dr. No soundtrack, 1962, but that's not the first occurrence of this chord sequence. I found one from 1904. The name's Jean Sibelius. Jean. Yeah. Jean Sibelius, Cassazioni, I believe it's called, opus number 6.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her into your heart. Then you can start to make it better.
Let's hear that back.
We've got something there, George.